டாக்டர் அம்பேத்கர் கேட்குறாரு. சொத்துரிமை அடிப்படையில், சொத்து உடைமை அடிப்படையில், கல்வி அடிப்படையில் தான் வாக்குரிமை என்பதற்கு நடத்திய வாதங்களை எதிர்த்து அவர் பேசுகிறார். கல்வி தகுதின்றதுலேருந்து லிட்ரஸின்ற லெவலுக்கு பிரிட்டிஷ்காரங்க இறங்கி வராங்க. இந்த வரலாற்றை எல்லாம் சொல்லிவிட்டு இன்றைக்கு வந்திருக்கக்கூடிய இந்த ஸ்பெஷல் இன்டென்சிவ் ரிவிஷன் என்பது எங்கே கொண்டு போயிருக்கிறது என்று சொன்னால், வெள்ளைக்காரன் ஆட்சி காலத்தில் என்ன நிலைமை இருந்ததோ அதற்கு கொண்டு போயிருக்கிறது. சொத்து அற்றவர்கள், சொத்து ஆவணத்தை கொடுக்க முடியாதவர்கள், கல்வி அறிவற்றவர்கள், அவர் சொன்னது போல் பீகார் காஸ்ட் சர்வே படி 14% மக்கள் தான் மெட்ரிகுலேஷனுடைய படிச்சிருக்கிறாங்க. அப்போ ஸ்கூல் சர்டிஃபிகேட் கொடுக்க முடியாத நிலை, சொத்து ஆதாரம் கொடுக்க முடியாத நிலை. இதில் ஆதார் மட்டும்தான் வச்சுருக்கிறாங்க. ஆதார் செல்லாது என்று நான் சொன்னால் அந்த பாமர மக்கள் நம்ப மறுக்கிறார்கள். நான் 70லேருந்து ஓட்டு போட்டுருக்கேன், எப்படி சொல்ல முடியும்னு கேட்குறாங்க. இப்படி ஒரு அவலமான நிலை நிலவுகிறது என்பதை தோத்து சொன்னார். சுருங்க சொன்னால், ஒரு யோகேந்திர யாதவ் அழகாக சொல்லியிருக்காரு. யோகேந்திர யாதவ், உலகத்திலேயே இதுவரை நடந்திராத மிகப்பெரிய வாக்குரிமை பறிப்பு நிகழ்வு இது நடந்திருக்கு. இது மாதிரி உலகத்தில் எந்த நாட்டிலையும் எப்பொழுதும் எங்கேயும் நடந்ததில்லை என்று அவர் சொல்லியிருக்கிறார். இது பீகாருக்கு மட்டுமல்ல, எல்லா மாநிலங்களுக்கும் வருகிறது என்பதைத்தான் அவர் எச்சரிக்கையாக சொன்னார். அது விரிவாக பேச வேண்டிய விஷயம். அடுத்து திரு பரகல பிரபாகர் அவர்கள் பேச வருகிறார்.
You're aware of the structure of Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. BJP has different wings also. They're called morchas. There is Bharatiya Janata Yuva Morcha, BJY. The Youth Mahila Morcha, Kisan Morcha, Minority Morcha, etc. And he said, recently, for the last 10 years or so, there's a new morcha. I said, what? There's an election morcha. Then I thought, it makes sense. So, what we have today is not the Election Commission of India, but an election morcha. This election morcha did a wonderful job. In 2024 Lok Sabha elections, a lot of exercise was done. I think in this venue last year on the 8th of August, just about a year ago, I gave a detailed presentation based on a very thoroughly researched report of the Vote for Democracy report, which concluded that 79 seats have changed hands because of around 5 crore vote hike that has taken place between the provisional figure announced by the Election Commission of India and the final figure. There's a huge hike that amounted to about 5 crore votes. These 5 crore votes have changed the fortunes of a minimum of 79 seats spread across 15 states. If that had not taken place, the NDA, which now has 293, which they won 293 in 2024, would have been 214. And the opposition alliance, which today has 234, would have had 313. When you take this figure into your mind, 214 NDA and 313 opposition. Then my friend who sat next to me in the plane, who said there is an election morcha, makes sense. I must also give you a little warning. Tamil Nadu, Maruthaiyan and other people, or Maruthaiyan, all these people, they look very confident nothing is going to happen to Tamil Nadu. Before the elections, I went to Kerala many times because my book got released and many invitations were there, the universities and other civil society groups. I used to speak and then I used to warn them, look, don't think that your Western Ghats are going to protect you. Something is going to happen. Be careful about it. But they were very complacent. Nothing is going to happen to Kerala. What, Kerala? No. But it happened. And the game is very sophisticated game. Please understand this. And you will hear a lot of arguments in the social media and Facebook, etc. Look, what are you talking? If mandate is stolen, they would have had 400 Park, isn't it? But why will they settle for 293? Even BJP itself could have had a lot of seats. 400 Park they would have had if they were stealing. They didn't steal. They're good people. you get this kind of a thing. Huh. And this Maruti, this is the problem with other political parties also. They are, we have been shouting from the rooftops. Since when? Since immediately after the elections were concluded in 2024. We've been saying this. Look, there's a lot of problem with 2024 poll data. Nobody talked about it until recently when the leader of the opposition said something after a huge exercise. Now there is a discussion. Good, there is a discussion. But then we have been shouting. Nobody bothered. You know why they were not bothered? Political parties, why they did not say anything? Because they don't have an answer. If somebody says, when you win Telangana, it's okay. When you win Chhattisgarh, it's all right. When you lose Maharashtra, you say it's stolen. When you win Himachal Pradesh, it's all right. They have no answer. That is why when you win Karnataka, is it okay? When you win Raebareli, is it all right? They don't have an answer. But there is an answer. There is an answer in data. There is an answer in logic. Before I bore you with data, there's a lot of data. I'll tell you that also. But I'll give you a logic. Do you know there is something called casino? Do you know what is a casino? Do you know? You must be playing cards and things like that. Isn't it? There are some small clubs. In a casino, if you lose every time you go, will you go again? No. If you go to a casino and lose every game that you play, will you go again? No. How does a casino run? Casino runs on the basis of hope. I win now, I will lose now. I win again, I might lose too. But again, I win. have a hope. Oh, let me win. I'll win. I'll be able to win. But ultimately, at the end of the day, who wins? The casino wins. You take Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, no. Dharavi we want. Dharavi development is important. We want that. Chhattisgarh you take. All right. Himachal, take it. No Haryana, because Haryana, when the farmers want to storm Delhi, Haryana we need because we want to stop them. So, the casino is a very, very sophisticated game. Please understand this. Don't be fooled by a win here and a win there. Understand what you're losing. You will lose Lok Sabha. You might win Telangana. You will lose Maharashtra. You might win Chhattisgarh. So casino wins. Please understand this. Why do I say this? I say this because there is a huge jump of the BJP's vote share in Tamil Nadu. How much do you know? Between 2019 and 2024. 2019, the BJP vote share in Tamil Nadu was 3.58. What is it in 24? 11.24. Oh, 11 point. And see, they're showing you progress, growth. So tomorrow, when is your election? If something happens in 26, you see, there's a record from 3.58 to 11.24. Then it's not a big deal after that.
21%. Amit Shah announced 21%.
You see that?
26.
See, they can also tell you how many seats now. But so which is about how much is the growth? About 8%. 8%. Sorry. So which is from 19 to 24, the growth is about 7%. Isn't it? There is a wonderful giveaway here because the provisional polling in Tamil Nadu in 2024 Lok Sabha elections jata, and the final figure, the difference was 7.53%. So you can see the growth. There is the growth. Don't think growth is from here. Growth is from there. That is why the morcha is important. Yeah. Friends, I want to sound an alarm bell. I feel like saying this because after seeing you sitting here for more than 3 hours, I feel confident that you are serious. If you do not arrest this now, forget about a democratic India. If you let this pass now, you are not likely to have another proper general election to the Lok Sabha. Don't think I'm too alarmist. Anything can happen anywhere, but not in India. Anything can happen anywhere, but not in Tamil Nadu. Please don't go into that. Everything there is a first time. And you have seen a lot of things that have happened for the first time in India. Maruthaiyan has given you a huge list from Pegasus to electoral bonds to so many things. This is also likely to happen. It has to be arrested. And for it to be arrested, it cannot be a fight between two political parties or two alliances, and you cannot frame it as this is one against the other, A against B, alliance against this alliance, this party against that party. No, it has to be framed in such a way that this is a fight for the republic by the people, by the common voters, by you and me, against this kind of a fraud that is being committed on the country. Only then we are going to save our democracy. I do not want you to think that if you come out onto the road and say this must stop, it is not because you want to support Rahul Gandhi or Congress party or this party or that party, RJD or BJD. No. It is to save our democracy, it is to save our republic that we need to get on to the road. And please stop thinking that if you post on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or something or the other, you've done your duty. No, it has to be feet on the ground agitation to save our democracy. Otherwise, you are not going to save democracy in this country. The other day, I was talking to somebody. I said, look, all this is happening. Then he looked at me and very, very confident, and he was so complacent. He was even smiling. He said, look, I've demolished all those arguments. He said, where? Don't you follow me on Facebook? He demolished all these arguments on Facebook. So what else? But those two guys are happily going to the bank, vote bank. Okay, I won't take much time. I'll make two additional points. So, do you know that we had 7-phase polling? Yeah, and Election Commission took 11 days to declare the final polling percentage for phase 1. You know, 11 days. It took 4 days to declare the final polling percentage for phase 2. For phase 3, it took 4 days. For phase 4, it took 4 days. For phase 5, it took 3 days. For phase 6, it took 4 days. For phase 7, it took 5 days. Why? Why did the morcha take so long to tell you what is the final percentage of polling? It's very alarming. Sagar, you know, when was the last day of polling?
June 1st.
First. And when were the results declared? 4. Last day of polling was first. Results were on 4th. Do you know that the 7th phase final polling percentage was released on the 6th? After the final results were declared, the election commission gives out the final figure for phase 7. You think it's a child's play? What is happening
In digital India,
in digital India?
not ballot.
There's one more. Phase 2 is very interesting phase. Phase 2, even today, now, just before speaking, I was checking. Even now, you don't have constituency wise preliminary polling data. Even now. So you do not know how much is hiked. See, if you say this is the preliminary data and this is the final data, even somebody like me who doesn't know much of mathematics can sit down and say, look, this is the height. Like I told you about Tamil Nadu height, 7 point something. But you can't say this because, initially the election commission refused to give, for phase 2, it refused to give even state-wise data. It gave phase data. Phase, the entire phase, this what? Entire phase? Does it make any sense? It refused to give. Then it gave state-wise, but no constituency-wise, even today. Now, why is it important? It is important because the strike rate of BJP NDA in phase 2 is extraordinary. Extraordinary. In phase 2, West Bengal, 3 seats went to election. All the 3 seats went to BJP. In UP, 8 seats went to polls. All the 8 went to BJP. In Madhya Pradesh, 6 seats went to polls in phase 2. All the 6 went to BJP. In Chhattisgarh, 3 seats went to polls in phase 2. All the 3 went to BJP. In Tripura, 1 seat went to polls in phase 2. That 1 seat went to BJP. In J&K, 1 seat went to polls in phase 2. That seat went to BJP. In Karnataka, 14 went to polls in phase 2. 12 have gone to BJP. In Rajasthan, 13 have gone to polls in phase 2. 10 have gone to BJP. In Assam, 5 have gone to polls in phase 2. 4 have gone to BJP. It's extraordinary.
What is happening in Bihar, or special intensive revision. I think I shall also give you a little bit of history of franchise rights. I think my friend here talked about constant assembly debate and how we got the right to vote. But I like to go back a little more, like 20 years back, from independence, when the conversation on franchise right began, that why people should participate in the formation of the government. Yeah, anyone can say that when we had first direct election, or when people got voting rights here in India. Yes, sir. We actually got direct election first in 1990, Montagu Chelmsford reform, and then 1930 was actually depressed classes getting, and women getting franchise right. But direct election had started in 1919, although in a very limited, restricted population, 3% for the provincial assembly. 1919 is when India got its voting rights. Very minor population, 3% only for provincial assembly, and for central assembly it was only 1%. Um, so the conditions for voting right was a privilege. It was not, something which now we take as granted that everybody will have it. Everybody should vote for, should participate in the formation of the government. It was not considered as an inherent right, like now we consider it. If we are born in India, or until before, I mean, we will come to SIR, what they are trying to change and what this will change. But before SIR, what we have considered, that if you are born in this country, if you have achieved 18 years age here, you are rightful to have franchise right, and vote in all elections, right from parliament to panchayat. But this was not considered an inherent right back then, 1919. When what changed is round table conference debates, when Dr. Ambedkar and his colleague R. Srinivasan, who was from Tamil Nadu, depressed classes, he represented depressed classes in Tamil Nadu. Dr. Ambedkar and R. Srinivasan were representing the repressed classes at the Roundtable Conference. Roundtable Conference happened from 1930 to 1932. Right. So I'm gonna just mention a bit of their conversation, or rather their fight for voting right for everyone, including women, which began the conversation. They may not have succeeded in bringing adult suffrage, what we have now, or universal franchise, but that was the beginning of what we have today, or what we happen to have today. In 1919, when British government started a direct election, they gave franchisee based on property rights, education, military services. These were basic conditions that if you have property, if you pay certain rent to the government, then you will have a vote. If you are educated at certain level, like let's say matriculation at 10 years of study, then you qualify as a voter, and military service. But only retired military people were qualified. And now, if you look at the conditions, who would be most likely to qualify? Who will have property? Who will have education? And who will, military personnel were very not very large in number. So, under these criteria, mostly landlords or people with property will qualify, which were mostly rich people, upper caste people, and education as well. Upper male adults will qualify, because women were still, literacy rate among women was still 3% or 1%, 1990. Yeah. So most of women, most of depressed classes were excluded from under this condition. They did not say it's not a universal right. They said these are the conditions and this is how you get the vote. Now, under that, only 3% population were qualified. Uh, then comes Roundtable Conference, where Dr. Ambedkar and R. Srinivasan represent, and they ask for universal suffrage. They do not just ask for, um, voting right for depressed classes and women, but they said that we shall have adult suffrage. Why? The basic argument was that if you limit the franchise, if you limit voting to certain class of people, it does not form a democracy. It does not make a responsible government. It turns the democracy into an oligarchy, into a government which is controlled by a class, which is made of certain people from certain class and privileged class, those who will have property, those who will have education. So the danger is that you are creating an oligarchy which will not be sustainable, which will not be sustainable. If you want a government, people's government, you must give voting right to everyone, including women and depressed classes. But they had to counter these things were big things back then. Property condition, education. People would frown upon anyone who would say, "Oh, are you going to give it to illiterate people? Are you going to give it to people who does not pay taxes?" There was a point when Dr. Ambedkar was willing to abandon his demand for separate electorate. I hope you know that Dr. Ambedkar was negotiating for separate electorate for Dalits, and that's how we now have joint reserved constituencies. I mean, diluted version of separate electorate. But he was willing to let go of separate electorate in exchange of adult franchise. If you look at his evidence before Simon Commission, October 1928, he said that if you give us adult franchise, we will not demand separate electorate. But that was 1928. 1930, when he comes to Roundtable Conference, and he had not expected at all that his own people, as in people from his own country, will be against universal suffrage. He hoped that there will be no problem. If I say that everybody should get vote right, people will be happy. I mean, his own countrymen at least will back him. There were 36 people in the franchise subcommittee of the Roundtable Conference, and he had not expected at all that people from his own country will say that no, we cannot have adult franchise because our people are not ready, because they're illiterate, they are poor, and they will not value the vote if we give it to them. So Dr. Ambedkar said that to the chairperson, who was an Englishman or Secretary of State actually, Samuel Huare. He said that it's such a disappointment that I had not expected. So I'm not going to leave my separate electorate demand now. But he argued, which I want that we should know. When we discuss SIR, maybe we will know the context why I'm telling you a little bit of history. So he said that why the argument in favor of property, why only property people should get franchise right is because they said they pay to the government, so they contribute to the growth of the government, and this has been foundation for two generations. Before we had direct elections for provincial, we had this for the local municipalities and other local bodies. So this property-based franchisee right was already in existence even before 1990. So he said that the argument was that it has been always like this because those who have property only should vote. Dr. Ambedkar comes in and he addresses the conference, which included Indian politicians, Indian princes, English people, bureaucrats, people from English government, and he said that you have to separate the concept of private property from voting right because private property make this entire relation of associated life very tilted towards the privileged class. What is associated life? Like we live in a society, we interact with each other, we have certain terms of, you know, maybe unwritten laws, but we deal with each other. We live in harmony. We buy from each other. We exchange things from each other. So there is certain social laws, and for that to remain very strong, you must exclude property from building a very good relation in the society. Private, let's say, for example, when a liberal go to a factory and to work there, and the factory owner makes him sign a contract where if he owns the property, all the clauses will be against the liberal or who's working in the factory. He will not have any right. If he dies during the work, the owner is not supposed to give him compensating for anything. Things like that. I'm saying that if you have private property attached to certain contract, it will only benefit owner of the private property, which is not a good working environment. He said if you have this kind of working condition, then your labor will only give their labor under force. They will not be giving their labor in terms of growing or growth. Yeah, so he said same theory applies to society, and we must separate concept of private property from voting right, because voting right is something that builds government, and government is someone who legislate over you. They make laws on your food, on your movement, on your relationship, on your all kinds of social, economic, political relation that you have with other people. It's basically the government which is making your life, molding your life. So he said if a person gets to have a say in formation of government, then he it shall not be conditional upon property ownership. Right? So that was one argument why we shall not have property as a condition to have voting right. Then the argument in favor of education was that people only who have certain level of educational qualification can think politically and are politically aware. They only should be allowed to vote, so that we have good people in the legislative body, whether it's parliament or assembly. So this argument also prevailed over for 3 decades before 1935. Before these gentlemen arrived on the platform and said that, look, the question is not who's having what qualification. The question is of intelligence. Even an illiterate person can be very intelligent. If an illiterate person runs his family, he makes living for his family, then he's intelligent. Then he's also qualified to participate in the government. It is not necessary that only literate people are intelligent people. And he also said it can be vice versa, because the argument in favor of the educated was that they are very politically aware, and they have political knowledge, so they automatically qualify. Dr. Baker said, and it was kind of foreseeing the future. He said that, look, literate, educated people read newspaper of his own party. He listens to conversation of his own party. So what he in a way becomes fanatic, and he does not have a very diverse view. Whereas a farmer or a person who's working in the field have will have conversation with everyone. So his knowledge may be more diverse than an educated person. So he said that this requirement of education is absolutely unnecessary. Also, for practical reason that women and depressed classes were they had not access to education, and they said it's not failure of themselves. They are illiterate because you failed. You as a government failed. So it is your responsibility to give them education, and then put this condition that you will qualify for voting only if you have education. So these property and education, why they were separated, they did not win. They were not able to convince the Indian conference or even the British. It was a joint conference, roundtable conference, because most of the representatives from India were upper caste aristocrats, lawyers, landlords. So, and they were all male, mostly male, and they did not want, in a way, to go this franchisee to everyone, because then they won't be selected. Ambedkar had said that it's ridiculous that you make education a criteria, and then you have a government where all educated people come, and then they will perpetuate the poverty, because they will never want other people to be educated, so that they continue to rule. You get what I'm saying? Right? His point was that you are making ruling class a ruling class, the educated class a ruling class. Then why would they educate other people? Because they will have vested interest in keeping them illiterate and deprived. Yeah. So Anyway, he was not able to convince. He was only able to convince British people with his argument and said that okay, British people diluted some of the condition, educational condition. One was that instead of upper primary education, which was like 6 years of education, British people diluted it to literacy for voting right. And for property also, rental was reduced. Some people paid, I guess, 3 rupees annual rental. It was reduced to 1.5 or something. So in total, the franchisee expanded from 3% to 15% of the total population. Then we have independence and we have adult suffrage. Now, what happened in Bihar? Fast forward to 2025, and I'm taking you to Bihar. On June 24 June 2025, Election Commission came up with an order that we will revise the electoral roll. Basically, we have in all states we have electoral roll, voter list basically, where um, and they have right, they are authorized to remove names of people who are dead, who have migrated, and also add people who are newborn. So this is a regular this process. I'm not saying SIR, special intensive revision, but this has been a regular exercise where commission is supposed to revise the electoral roll so that new people keep coming. But before this, the process has always been inclusive and more sympathetic. They will come to your door, have you on board by just taking Aadhaar card. Before this, Aadhaar is also an acceptable document under Electoral Rules 1960, under which Election Commission is supposed to work. But anyway, in this exercise, what was unprecedented or unique is that Aadhaar was not accepted. First thing was that Aadhaar is not acceptable, ration card is not acceptable as a as an evidence of your identity. Ration card is not acceptable. Driving license, all these are not valid documents for them. PAN card. What was acceptable is a set of 11 documents, and 11 documents included educational certificate, property certificate, um, government, if you have worked in government, then government ID, pension book, passport, um, yeah, basically PSU, anything from public or government office. Which you can think that the condition itself is very favorable to privileged class, those who have access to education, those who have property, those who, it will remind you to the pre-independence conditions. And yeah, these are the conditions that election commission put, that only within from these 11 documents we will give you voting right. It doesn't matter whether you have voted last year in parliament election or in Bihar assembly before that. You have to come to us, fill a form, give a declaration that you are a citizen of this country, attaching an evidence of your citizenship, and then we will see if you qualify or not based on your documentation and our field verification. This was new. This was what was new in the revision of electoral law. Yeah. So also, why it should concern you, because this 24th June notification is a pan India notification. It's not a Bihar specific notification or order. They have given it in the Supreme Court. They have said that it's a pan India order. We are doing it in Bihar as a pilot, but this is not specific to Bihar. This is a pan India, which means that whatever is written in that order, 24th June 2025, that will become basis for revision of any electoral roll in any of the states, right? So yeah, so the process is started, and in the beginning, many activists went to Supreme Court asking that this is unprecedented and this order should be scrapped on several bases. First is that Election Commission has no right to ask for 11 documents only. That is a creation of a new law that can only be done by Parliament. You cannot give somebody voting right based on certain documents. That is, unless that is put in the rules. That was one first basis. Second, what this process was doing is that it was turning the onus of proving citizenship. Earlier, the onus of including voters on voter list was of election commission. Election commission was supposed to reach out to every adult in India, living in India, and give and have them whatever form they can have them sign and include them as a voter. This was first time where election commission was telling that you come to us with the form and with an evidence, then we will see, then we will check your citizenship and we will give you franchisee right. So timeline also 1 month. I mean, people can arrange certain certificates if they have been given time, but this was to be done within a month, which is mostly for people in Bihar. Half of Bihar is flooded in North Bihar, basically. Even where I'm coming from right now, I live in Bhagalpur with my wife. It's next to Ganga, and that village, that district is also mostly submerged. So this is a month where every year we see flooding in several districts, mostly districts which are affected by Kosi. We have a river called Kosi, originating from Himalaya, and they flood almost. It floods like 7-8 districts. Some of the most backward districts in Bihar, which is also called Simanchal, they have more. Some of them also known as Muslim majority villages, Purnia, Katihar, Araria, Supal. I traveled to all these villages after this SIR was announced and that this was being taken up, um, to know how much the voters know, and if they have the certificates or not. And what I found was, I have written in the article, but it was very overwhelming that people were not aware of the objective and the mandate at all of the SIR. And they did not have certificates also. They had Aadhaar card, they had other certificates which were not qualified in this particular process, but they did not have matriculation. If you look at our data, which is Bihar Caste Survey, very recent data is Bihar Caste Survey 2023, when we had a caste survey of our state, when RJD was in power in coalition with Nitish Kumar. So according to that data, only 14% of our population is matriculation. Yeah? Matriculation is very important because they are saying that it's only one of the documents, but if you look at the order, what you have to authenticate is place of birth, your place of birth, and date of birth. Now, if you consider from where can you authenticate these two things, date of birth and place of birth, you will figure out that it's mostly matriculate certificate under the 11 documents. Unless you have passport, of course, or you work in maybe government, then you will have a government identity card, which is valid document. But if you consider a population which does not have government service, does not get pension, and does not pay property tax or does not have land. Many people don't have land. Again, I'll quote caste survey data 2023. Among that, it's almost one third are landless people, mostly. Again, with ECI kept saying that we have kept online as an option for migrants. We are also a state which have some of the largest migrants who go out to work in your state, in Western India, Southern India. So election commission, when they were asked that why are you giving such a short time, many migrants will not be able to give you the form that you're asking with the evidence. Election commission response was that we have put it online, they can submit it. Now they in their imagination, every liberal is equipped with internet and computer. According to our caste survey data, only 1% population, Bihari population, have access to computer. Yeah, so now let me explain that how they divide the voters, and then you can try, you know, imagining maybe that how a farmer, will if they will understand it at all. So SIR divides the whole population. We have 7.98 crore voters. We used to have until January 2025. After SIR, we have 7.2 lakh voters. Sorry, 7.2 crore voters. Earlier, we used to have 7.9 crore voters. Now it divides 7.9 crore voters into two categories: those whose name were there on 2003 electoral roll and those whose names were not there on the 2003 electoral roll. Again, this 2003 cutoff is totally arbitrary. It has no justification in the order. Why 2000 becomes such a sacrosanct date line that those whose names are there on 2003 automatically qualifies to be on the current electoral roll, and why those who are not there has to produce an evidence. So those who are not there has to produce an evidence from one of the 11 documents, and those who are there on the 2003 electoral roll, they have to attach a copy of the 2003 their the ticket that you get during the election. Just before election, you have a ticket coming to you. Which has sorry, yeah, both state, right. So you're supposed to attach that as an evidence, and your citizenship will be taken as valid. So everybody, one thing is that 7 crore voters, almost 8 crore, which were had to give evidence. Some of them had to only attach the slip of 2003, and those whose names were not there had to struggle to find one of these 11 documents. Now the districts that we let me know if I'm crossing time limit. If I'm it's 10 minutes, okay. Okay. Sorry, I think I'm boring you guys here. Okay. Okay, thank you. First thing is that 8 crore voters were divided into two categories. Then the other, so those whose names were there were almost 4 crore. Those whose names were not there were 3 crore. So 3 crore people had to go through their documents. Now these 3 crore people were divided further into three categories. Those who were born before 1987 had to give evidence of their own place of birth and date of birth. Those whose date of birth or who was born between 1987 and 2004 has to give evidence of their own, meaning their own place of birth and date of birth and that of one of their parents. Those who were born after 2004 has to give evidence of themselves and their parents also. Yeah, so this is how complex the process was. And when I would put it before whoever I interviewed, mostly poor people, they would be just lost that they would not even figure out when they were born and why it is so. Some people got very offended when I said that Aadhaar is not acceptable at all. And I remember a conversation with this farmer, um, forgot his name, Bihari Yadav, someone, old man, 70-year-old. Yeah, and he said, I asked him that, have you got your name enrolled on the voter list? And his response was that he was very proud to say that I have been voting since 1970s, even before you were born. I said, yes, sir, but what evidence did you give? And he said, I have Aadhaar. BLO had not listed them. So in this process, there's a volunteer which is involved at the first level who are supposed to take the form of the ECI, Election Commission of India, to the voters. Is booth level officers. They are mostly primary school teachers, which is provided by the government, local government, and they are also Anganwadi workers, self-help group, women, mostly women. So they are supposed to give form to every voter, and then every voter is supposed to fill that form. That form is also very complex again. That form is in Hindi also, Hindi and English. In the form, you have to fill in your Aadhaar number, although Aadhaar is not acceptable, but you have to fill in your Aadhaar number, your parents' Aadhaar number, your spouse Aadhaar number if you have, and then you have to put a picture, you have to sign over, and you have to give a declaration which year you were born in, and then evidence which you are enclosing. So consider the plight of a person who is illiterate, and how they would juggle between these clauses of the form, and how accurate they can fill in. So anyway, so I was talking about this Yadav sir, and he said that I have Aadhaar. He took out immediately from his pocket and said, "Look, see, I have Aadhaar, and I've been voting since 1970s, and I voted several times in Assembly, in Lok Sabha. So I asked that when BLO will come to you, what will you give?" And he said, "Aadhaar card." I said, it's not valid." And he said, "It's you who's telling it's not valid. You know what? Wherever you go, they will ask you Aadhaar. So you don't know anything." So which was a very common response, and it was very sad actually. These people were not even told. They were not aware, and they were not given enough time. And yeah, and he was pretty confident that nobody will stop him from voting. He said, "My name will come. You will see. You are saying you go where," and I could not give him counter that actually, yes, wherever I go, they do ask me Aadhaar card. He said, "You go to SIM, they'll ask you Aadhaar." I said, "All that is fair, but in this process, Aadhaar is not taken." And he said, "We will see when the BLO come, but I don't trust you." Yeah, so in this process also many who were affected would automatically forget about people who have been left out. 65 lakh has already been removed after publication of the draft rule. Now what we have is a draft rule. Now this, after which the 65 lakh were removed, and it was the voter has been shrunk to 7.2 crore. Now their application will go to scrutiny, and we will have a final rule publishing in September 30th September. But even at this stage, when draft rule has come, 65 lakh names were removed, and now many. I'm saying that those even within these qualified parameters, what I saw is that women have problem in having their documents, because when they are married to a place, they have their documents from before. Yeah. And in Indian Hindu marriage, you don't have a contract where you can show and then have the local documents. So I met many women, working class women, vegetable vendors, women who were selling tea or selling vegetable, and they had all their documents from their parents. They did not have any property is not in the name of daughter, right? At least in North India, you never have property in the name of your daughter. So if you look at the 11 documents, you can't give property document. Um, Education also, again, women. My society is not very progressive. Women are not they're not given education, higher education. They are literate, but whether their documents will be from their home, right? Their documents won't be from their husbands. So these were practical problem. This will automatically shrink, remove voters, because you put this condition that only 11 documents can make you qualified. So you can't have property documents, education documents, and then passport and all is out of question, right? Caste, okay, there were two other documents, caste documents, caste certificate and resident certificate. Now, the thing is, to make a caste certificate, if you are aware of the process, you have to get signed. First sign is from your ward commissioner, councillor, or if you are in panchayat, from your mukhia. That goes to Tehsildar. Tehsildar forwards it to your block, and then from block it goes to SDO, subdivisional office, and then finally DM, district magistrate. So this involves 5 level, and at 5 stages take almost 3 months. If your district has a functioning district administration. Most of our district administrations are not very functioning, also very corrupt. So many people in one of these flooded districts, we were in an area, Muslim village, and they said that panchayat here doesn't work. They ask us money, and but it's mostly closed also. So we went to verify whether the panchayat office is functioning or not. We went to the panchayat office and we found that it was very it was it was just four walls and a lot of hay was put in that. There was no individual, no person in that office. So they were right that panchayat office was defunct and there was no accountability. So the point was that two documents which the poor people, those who have no property, no education, access to education, no access to government job obviously and passport, may have made their caste certificate or resident certificate if they were given enough time, at least 3 months. But this 1 month window has put them at disadvantage and they were not able to submit their documents.
Supreme Court is given more.
Yes.
Order.
So yes.
Use the other.
Right. So that is a very recent judgment, not judgment order, right? And but ECI has not issued any amendment to their original order. Remember that the SIR comes from 24th June order. 24th June order does not speak of any of these things that you can accept Aadhaar card. It is only the Supreme Court order which, if accepted, we don't know because we don't have ECI affidavit still after that order, and we will get to know when the final rule is published and when somebody challenges that they did not consider Aadhaar. From their side, there has not been any public order. They said a lot of things through press releases, and they have been saying through press releases. They have issued only one order. Order means it has legal validity, right? When a government constitutional authority do something, they do it through public order. The rest of the conversation they are doing through press releases which have no legal validity. This also that Supreme Court told them to accept Aadhaar. They have not given any amendment to their original order that okay, we amend that out of these 11 documents, we will also accept Aadhaar. So even if that relief comes, hoping that that comes, it will not be universal. It will not be implementable to other states because the original order do not have it. Right? So yeah, that's basically the process. And what we saw on the ground is a lot of possibility of disenfranchisement. Now we see already that 65 lakh people were removed. It was done under an impossible timeline, 1 month, and we have also spoken with booth level officers, many booth level officers, and they were only uploading the form because it was humanly impossible to verify, get right documents. In the beginning, they would not get any form at all from people because none of them were able to get any document. Yeah. So far, 65 lakh name has been removed, and Supreme Court only has forced them to reveal their names. Initially, they filed an affidavit that we are not required by law to give separate name list for people who we removed. But now, because Supreme Court ordered, they have given it on their website. That also is not machine readable. Now, what the cleverness of them is that they removed the machine readable rule which they had published earlier, and they have put non-machine readable. Basically, machine readable is when you can analyze the data, and it's such a huge data. You can imagine 7 crore voters, and in one assembly you have like 100 polling stations. One polling station consists of at least 1,200 people. So names of 7 crore, if you compress them into PDFs, you will have like thousands of PDF, right? And to read thousands of PDF to verify who have been removed and who have been included, it's impossible, humanly impossible, of 7 crore voters, unless you have a machine readable format. If you have machine readable PDF, then you can feed it to AI or coding. If we know we have some, we have expertise to do that. But if because they are not providing machine readable, they you as a journalist, as a analyst, as a watchdog, anything, you won't be able to call them out that, oh, you removed them, you did not remove them, you did not give them fair chance. Yeah. So now they can have the say. Again, Supreme Court has asked them to upload only machine readable role, which we haven't seen yet. Hopefully, we'll see again.